While the West only officially got 2 of the DS Digimon games, there were a couple more that were released and never left Japan. Which is a shame because I keep hearing that one of them is the best Digimon story game on the Nintendo DS. We're talking about the very subject of this video, Digimon Story Lost Evolution. Thanks to a massive effort by a team of fan translators, almost 3 years ago the game got an unofficial and pretty good translation to English, making it accessible for a lot of new players including myself. And by the way, major props for the translators, they're called Operation Decoded, and the link to their page is on the description if you want to check them out, and you should. Anyway, I finally took the time to play the game, trying to figure out one thing. Is the game worth playing? And is it really the best Digimon title in the DS library? Well, as you can tell by the length of the video, I have thoughts about this. Overall, I think the game is awesome and does quite a bit to fix some of the issues present in earlier titles. Like, believe it or not, some of the time wasting the games had. However, in a move that can only be described as baffling, it also introduced more of said time wasting things alongside other issues. And while the game did quite a bit to streamline the experience, I feel like some players might prefer the more complex versions of some of the systems. But I'll get there in due time. For now, let me just say this, welcome to a pretty lengthy video about Digimon World Lost Evolution. Before we get into it, I'll do what I normally do in these sorts of videos and offer you all a story recap. It has been, after all, 15 years since the game released. Sure, the translation only released like 3 years ago, so for a lot of us the game actually launched at that time, but still, I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, let alone the plot of a game that I played 3 years ago. I haven't played this game 3 years ago, but I'm just saying, in case you have and you're anything like me, the story recap might help. And heck, I'm not sure how well known the fan translation for this game is, so some of you may not even have played the game. That all being said, be warned, this recap will contain spoilers. Like full spoilers, as I'm going to run through everything that happens in the game as fast as possible. If you would rather not have the story spoiled or remember it enough to not want to watch this, use the video's chapters to jump to after the recap. I will comment on some story events as I recount them, but honestly, if you're not interested in the story, you won't miss much by skipping the recap. Anyway, the game starts at a festival. We are there with our colorful cast of characters, Asuka, Hiroyuki, us, Yui, and Takuto. As we're having fun, we see a firework hitting a spaceship or satellite or something. Hiroyuki sees the crash and runs there to investigate with all of us in tow. There, we see that it's a spaceship, and because we're dumb kids who think anything from the sky can have the same wish-granting properties of a falling star, we make wishes. I guess spaceships can grant wishes though, because Hiroyuki wishes for a dinosaur and sure enough, Agumon comes out of a bush. He says that he's looking for a tamer, explaining that it's a human that fights and trains alongside Digimon, and that Digimon need the connection to grow. As we talk, the spaceship opens and 2 guys, Uno and Dos, come out, with a girl called Triss and the Numemon following soon after. Agumon says they are bad, and sure enough, they soon prove that by saying that they came to the real world to ditch a Numemon, despite it begging not to be left behind. Everyone runs except us, and we agree to help Agumon fight Uno, who says that if we beat him, he will leave peacefully with Numemon. We do beat him, and as promised, he does leave. As he's leaving, the other kids come back and end up getting abducted alongside Numemon into the Digiship. Wishing to rescue our friends, we run into the lights as well. Thanks to Hiroyuki, the ship crashes and us, him, and Asuka are separated from the other 2 friends. As such, our mission is clear, find our friends and return home. Agumon guides us through the digital world and takes us to the Digibase, grabbing a Gabumon along the way who tells us that the Tamers have been gone for a long time. As we get to the base, which becomes our base of operations for the rest of the game, we see a Terriermon pacing. It is hyped to see us as it thought Tamers were all gone from the world. We explain our predicament and we all collectively decide that the best course of action is to find a usable Digiship digiship, which we will need to both find our friends and go back home. Upon reaching the predicted location of the digiship, we find the 3 bandits, Uno, Dos, and Tres, in front of the ship. They attack us, we beat them, and as a reward of sorts, Triss answers our questions. She explains that 2 missing friends might be at a place called South Bridge, and that if they did land there, they were caught by the Selectors and are likely beyond saving. She explains that these beings, the Selectors, rule the digital world and want to create a new version of it. For that, they select humans and Digimon who will inhabit this new world, and erase the rest. The bandits work for the Selectors. And then, all hell breaks loose. The bandits leave and we get a call from the base claiming that a virus infiltrated it. Our screen then pans over there and we see a huge ass ship arriving and dropping 5 soldiers of sorts. We quickly find out that they are called Erasers. So, Selectors select and Erasers erase what wasn't selected. We see them erase 3 Digimon, invade the base, freeze 3 more who were selected, and go into the Digivolution tree to destroy it. We are then given back control, grab the code for the Digiship, and run back to the base. When we get there, we meet the Erasers who are walking out of the base, claiming to have completed the mission of destroying the tree. They then detect that one of us is a tamer and fights us. We win and they say they need to test our P rank potential and remove their limiters, transforming into monsters with big tongues called Shift Erasers. And no, I am not going to make a joke about big tongues, okay? Get your mind out of the gutter. Anyway, we win and they say our P rank potential is 58% and they leave to report to the Selectors. Afterwards, we enter the base and find out that the tree was destroyed. The damage was severe, but it can be fixed, so we all got to work on that. Terriermon finds it strange that they only busted the tree, while Gatomon finds it strange that they weren't allowed to erase the 3 Digimon there. Calomon's flipping out about the tree, the plates all being gone, etc. After the work is done, we are told that about half the evolutions were lost from the tree and they need our help to restore them. That's when we learn about bug plates, a mechanic that I will explain later. Over the course of this cutscene, we also learned that the Selectors took down the Tamer Union, you know, the same one from Dawn and Dusk, and that might be why Tamers vanished. Anyway, back on track, the ship that we found is usable, but it's missing a black box, which we are tasked with finding. On the way there, we have another run-in with Erasers, who suspect we're working with the numbers, that's the bandits with Spanish numbers as their names, and ask the Selectors for permission to erase the numbers. Then they attack us, naturally. We quickly take them down and move on. After walking a bit, we find a Demi-Devimon who has our black box. It calls us traitors because we're tamers and attacks us. After beating it, it tells us that it wants to go back to the digital world that had humans and Digimon having fun, the digital world that was thriving, and says that he'll never trust us because once the Selectors arrived, the humans ran and abandoned everyone. Asuka, who's with us, correctly deduces that the little Demi-Devimon must be sad its own tamer left. It takes off running with the box, saying that nobody needs tamers. We explain the situation to Terriermon via a call, and he says that for now we should just try to activate a nearby Digiport, as he wants to test out how the ship repairs are going. Apparently, it can move to nearby locations even without the black box, I don't know. We quickly get to the Digiports and find Devimon's bug plates in there. Apparently, Calomon has been searching for it ever since before Tamers disappeared. Also says that it's very weird for it to be in the port as it's been closed off ever since everyone vanished. After testing out the ship and repairing the plate to the evolution tree, we go after Demi-Devimon again, except this time it turned into a Devimon. He attacks us again, and after beating him, we explain that the Devimon plate that just allowed him to digivolve was in a closed port, likely because his tamer left it there, knowing that it would be safe as the port was locked away. Asuka then scolds Devimon, saying that if he had just looked into the tamer's disappearance any further, he would know that every single tamer disappeared, not just his. We finally get through to him, and he explains what his old tamer, Bibir, was like so we can keep an eye out for him. Devimon describes his tamer as annoying, irritating, and more things that I would rather not get demonetized for saying here, but concludes the speech saying that, despite all that, they are partners. He then gives us the black box and leaves. Upon installing the black box, we get word that an ally of the base had an encounter with the bandits and needs help, so off we go. There, we find a Hercules Kabuterimon facing the 3 bandits. It sees us and thinks we're with the bandits, which results in a fight. After beating some sense into him, Hercules Kabuterimon apologizes and tells us that the bandits gave him 2 bug plates and told him to restore it to the tree. Pretty weird. Hercules Kabuterimon then asks us to please try to find Palace Laboratory in South Bridge, as many Digimon and Tamers entered there but never left. After getting back to the base, we're told to do some side quests. I'll spare you the detail of those, really not much is missed by skipping their story. After we get through them, Patamon, who manages the Digiship, comes over running, saying that Hiroyuki stole the Digiship, likely headed for Southbridge to rescue his friends. Fucking idiot, that's the only way I can use to describe this guy. The ship comes back empty with a bunch of locations erased from its database, which means that we have to walk to each Digiport to relink it with the ship. Way to go, Hiroyuki, you dumbass! Problem is, we can't just walk to Southbridge, at least not above land. We're told to find Armadillomon, who can teach us how to dig into tunnels that will take us to Southbridge. We do just that and emerge at the right place, specifically within a map called Palette Amazon. As soon as we get there, 2 Kuwagamons arrive and say our ally told us to go with them. We question this order because, like, stranger danger, you know? You can't just follow someone because they told you an acquaintance is looking for you. Even then, our characters seem to be willing to go with them, if only they told us who the heck was asking for us. But no, they don't, and they decide to attack us as they were told to bring us no matter what. After being beaten up, they say that allies don't attack each other and that thus we are traitors. Which, come on, you attacked us first. They leave and Asuka takes off after them to find out who they work for. Naturally, this leads to her being captured by the 2 Kuwagamon. I swear, I am surrounded by dumbasses in this game. We run to try to rescue her and eventually reach them. They are all arguing with each other, with the Kuwagamon saying that they cannot be more specific than they are being, and even calling Asuka's body flabby. Amidst this, a Wargromon arrives, also saying that they are meant to carry us to their tamer. Upon seeing us, Wargromon asks if we're friend or foe. Now, I may have made my life a bit harder than it needed to be here because I decided to answer foe for the loose. Unfortunately for me, humor might have been lost alongside the tamers because the Wargromon actually believes me and says he'll be sure to tell his tamer that their only surviving ally is Asuka. And then, naturally, he attacks us. We very quickly kick their asses though, and despite losing, he still takes Asuka and tells us not to follow. We try to follow anyway, but instead of finding the kidnappers, we run into a guy called Shu who attacks us. I swear, people really need to learn to use their words in this game. The guy has a pretty cool team with Gawapamon, Lilamon, and Lynxmon, which is a rare sight in these games. But it is not enough to keep him in the game as we beat him easily. He then says that he thought we were working with the selectors, but we tell him otherwise. He tells us that he met Hiroyuki and takes us to him. We then reach Tamer Town, which, despite the name, only has one tamer, Shu. There were more, but selectors kept attacking and taking Digivices with every attack. Other tamers left to try to join the remnants of the Tamer Union in Palace Laboratory, but none of them ever came back. Ominous. We then head over to see Hiroyuki. He's very happy to see us and says that he heard a rumor that a small tamer was seen arguing with selectors around Limit Valley. He thought it was Yui, who's his sister, so he stole the ship to investigate. However, he lost the ship, got chased by Red Digimon, the same that chased us, and Bran, ending up in this town. We tell him that Asuka was taken by the Red Digimon, and we also agree to get him over to Limit Valley. The way there is via Resistor Jungle, where we get a call from Terriermon saying that a scary Digimon is targeting Asuka, beating up Red Digimon asking where she is. We reassure Terriermon that we got this and Asuka will be saved. A bit after the call, we run into the little Demi-Devimon turned Devimon, who's now a Venom Miotismon, believe it or not. Turns out that he's the one that's been beating up red Digimon left and right, as he figured out Asuka was taken by one and he is worried. He attacks us because Hiroyuki uses his unparalleled talent to be an idiot to piss the Digimon off. We beat him and have to listen to him blaming us for letting Asuka get taken away. He also concludes that he can't trust us to find her, so he runs off to beat up more red Digimon. The logic here is honestly baffling and hilarious to find in the game. A red Digimon took my friend, better beat up every single red Digimon I can find until one of them spills the beans. While he himself is red, mind you. From here, we make our way to Limit Valley and find Uno. He's fighting 3 erasers who have been ordered to capture him. The charges were pretty funny. This dude did a lot to piss off selectors. Charges were stealing a Digiship, aiding in lost Digimon escaping, 2 more named charges, and 13 more unnamed ones. He tries to convince the erasers that they too will get fucked if they don't defect, as they will be deleted when they lose their utility. Even asks if they don't remember what happens with numbers 4 to 7. They reply that 4 to 7's whereabouts are unknown, but that doesn't matter. Uno gives a wonderfully witty reply and erases them. This is around the time that we arrive, demanding that he gives back Yui and Takuto. He's like, ugh, how annoying, before attacking us. This was actually a cool fight. The dude uses this weird ass Digimon called EX Eraser R, or however you pronounce the letter. Hilariously enough, there's also a Botamon there who's simply a menace to say the least. Upon beating him, he says the rumor about a small tamer fighting selectors was likely referring to him, dos and tres. The small tamer fighting the selectors was tres. He then tells us to go back home, says he'll even give us the address, tells us our friends are likely not the friends we knew anymore and that we'd best forget about them. Hiroyuki, however, remains undeterred and we proceed after Yuno leaves. We end up running into Wargromon again, who tells us to leave. We refuse and ask who his tamer is, to which he replies that he is under no obligation to reply to the enemy and attacks. We fight but quickly beat him, causing him to leave, saying that he simply doesn't need to delay us anymore and that his tamer is calling for him. Because we simply can't stop chasing after trouble, we follow Wargromon through Palace Laboratory, eventually running into his tamer. Are you ready to be shocked at the tamer's identity? Here he goes. It's Takuto! Yeah, this was kinda expected. His attitude, however, is completely different than what we saw earlier in the game, and he is very hostile. He tells Wargromon to do whatever it must to stop us, right here, right now. We also find out that Yui is with him, hidden away. Unfortunately for him though, we once again beat up his Digimon. In a very creepy turn of events, he calls us a perfect specimen of a tamer and says that we are a danger to Yui because we are so strong. Due to that, if we continue down our current path, he will be forced to see us as enemies. We try to get information out of the guy, but naturally we're hit with the "you wouldn't understand" cliche line. Come on guy, give us credit, I'm smart. At least that's what my mom tells me anyway. Naturally though, we do not listen to the guy and decide to continue down our current path anyway, eventually running into Asuka. Her eyes are empty and she seems to be taking great joy in fighting, a complete shift from her previous personality. She says she will stop us and that she will break us too before attacking. Kinda savage, not gonna lie. We beat her though, which prompts her to say that she needs more powerful creatures and that her Digimon's no good. Just like that, she abandons him, causing him to wake up per se and go off, saying that he needs to find his tamer. Poor guy. We follow after Asuka and reach a union room from Digimon World Dawn, or at least a very similar one anyway. There we find Colonel, a whimsical and totally not evil guy who says that Asuka went on to the home area, an area that we are also welcome in. Turns out that they are building a new tamer union and for that they need powerful tamers from all over the world. As we would soon find out, I'm pretty sure that's where this continent's tamers ended up after vanishing. Colonel says that we will have a chance to prove ourselves, as we've been found by selectors and he just so happens to have forgotten his Digivice. Right. Erasers drop from a ship and we fight. Their team is pretty cool, Slash Angemon, Magna Angemon and Ninja Woman. They then remove their limiter and turn into Shift Erasers, fighting us again. After we beat them and they retreat, Colonel tells us that there's another continent in the digital world with 4 cities. If we can defeat their 4 champions, we can gain entry to the Colosseum, where we can fight in a tournament to determine the best tamer. Basically, they can't just fight the selectors, they need tamers of silver rank or higher to stand a chance, hence why they are doing the competition. He also gives us the key to the first city, where the first champion awaits. So, off we go! But before we need to do quests, as Stereomon needs time to investigate the address Colonel gave us. With the power of editing though, we skip the quests and reach the moment that Stereomon finishes the address analysis. Basically, the graphics board continent is in another server, kinda like another world per se. It was based off the digital world that we're in, but built off from there, and is apparently larger in size now. He also did not detect selectors there, so it doesn't appear to be a trap. He still asks Hiroyuki to stay behind though until we ascertain whether or not this is dangerous. So off we go, alone for once. They weren't kidding when they said that this is a whole different continent. Like, if you thought the original was already pretty big, take a look at this map. There is plenty of game to be had here. But for now there's only one place to land, Task Canyon North. We do just that and work our way to East City. Original name, right? The city is funny to say the least. Everyone here is either rude or depressed, or both. Rumor has it that once you get there, you instantly get irritated, but if you stick it out, you start feeling good. But by that point, your humanity is already gone. Kinda creepy, isn't it? Not wanting to stick around and lose our humanity or whatever, we quickly head for the gym. I mean, the Tamer Leader's room. Sorry. The task isn't as simple as walking to the leader and fighting them. Oh no, you have to first get through the gym again, sorry, force of habit. The leader's lackeys or whatever. Basically tamers that you have to beat before getting to the champion. The only thing of note in these trainers is that the second one is none other than Bibir, the Demi-Devimon's tamer. Dude is pretty rude and argues with his Digimon, Scuba Lukimon. They're both butting heads, and Scuba Lukimon tells us that after he's done beating us, he will beat Bibir next. From most other Digimon games I played, Digimon get along well with their tamers, so this was wild for me to witness, and pretty funny too. However, Scuba Lukimon wouldn't get the chance to beat his tamer up, as we beat him instead and he leaves frustrated. But then a badass Malomiotismon shows up. Turns out that's a Demi-Devimon, evolved into its final form. He berates Bibir, the two argue, and they decide to fight us. And even after losing, they simply laugh and get hyped up to go fight the local champion. They are a weird pair, and they really do belong together. Their idea to fight the champion though does not go well, as we feel an earthquake and the screen pans over to reveal that Asuka is the champion and she's trash-talking Bibir and Miotismon. We run over and they're laughing, saying that they got utterly destroyed. Asuka says that once we are beaten, we can feel free to laugh too, and attacks. She uses an EX Eraser Beta and a Boltpon. It ends up being a pretty long fight and for me at least somewhat tough as well, but we get through it. Upon being beaten, Asuka abandons her Digimon, and as they leave, Asuka regains her senses. Malomiotismon screams with joy and goes to hug her. It was absolutely adorable, and honestly a far cry from that bitter Demi-Devimon that we met in the beginning of our journey. Asuka claims to remember nothing from her time brainwashed and agrees to go back to town. Bibir and Malo graciously take on the role of local champions now that the old one left and we are not sticking around. What a generous duo. Upon leaving the building, Terriermon calls us saying Asuka got there safely. He also looked into Colonel. Apparently, he was one of the programmers that created the digital world and has long been dead. So he's unsure who or what is controlling the Colonel avatar. Might even be a copy of Colonel himself, ordered to protect the digital world. Who knows? With all that out of the way, we head over to the next city, South City. At this time, I need to take a moment to say that these cities are all separated by maps that you will likely be familiar with if you've played the past games. I'm just skipping them for the story recap because, well, nothing happens story-wise. But expect to see Thriller Ruins, Axis Glacier, amongst others. Anyway, we reach South City, a city that's been taken over by Numemon. What a shitty city, am I right, guys? Sorry, I couldn't resist the urge. Basically, the Numemon say nobody is allowed there but Numemon, and some of them even attack us due to that. In fact, the city has random encounters all over and they are all Numemon. We get to the Champions building, but you guessed it, Numemon are blocking the path. They will only let us pass if we beat up the NPC Numemon that want to fight around the city, which we easily do. Unfortunately for us, Numemon are not honorable Digimon and they decide to block our paths regardless. Even after being beaten, the trio that guards the door still refuse to move unless we get them a so-called Ebe Pop from an Ebemon. We go, find the Ebemon, beat them up, grab their pop, and go back to Numemon, who finally lets us pass. Well, kinda. As we're going to the leader, the three door-blocking Numemon step in front of us again, using the Ebe Pop to fuse together into a huge, stinking pile of shit. They then attack us, naturally. I'm pretty sure this is the first fight in the game that has the boss occupying 3 slots. I don't know about you guys, but I always find these boss fights to be easier since I usually have moves that hit all 3 areas at once. Due to that, we quickly beat the Numemon Megazord and make it to the leader, Triss. She uses an EXE Eraser Alpha and a Lilithmon. Very nice team overall. Long fight as well, but we end up victorious. Upon being beaten, Triss decides to leave the city, as the fact that the Numemon were able to rile us up means that they've gotten strong enough to protect the city without her. Nice wholesome ending to a shitty arc. Sorry, I'll stop repeating the shit joke, I promise. Next up is West City. We're received by a Vikemon and an ex-tamer who say that the champion is around but that we won't be able to see him for a reason that we'll understand soon enough. And by soon enough I mean now, because I'm skipping the fights leading up to the leader building. See, the dude is in fact there, he just doesn't want to fight, so he locked himself up in his room. That's why nobody can challenge him. Surprisingly, Shu shows up and says that the champion's name is Flar, or Ace for his friends. He claims that only one individual might be able to coax Ace out of the room, Bancho Leomon, his partner, so off we go to find him. When we do eventually get to the guy, he calls his tamer a coward and says that if we're siding with him, then we're enemies, just like him. Do no tamers get along well with their Digimon in this game? Bancho attacks us, but the fight isn't too difficult. I will say though, I love the design of Bancho Leomon, it's really nice. After proving our strength, the Digimon decides to hear us out. He resents Ace because the tamer just straight up left mid-fight against the selectors. We tell Bancho where Ace is, and Bancho resolves to ask the tamer why he stopped fighting, teleporting there with a roar. So back to the city we go. As we get there, we see that Bancho Leomon burst down the door and entered Ace's place. Apparently though, it was not a heartfelt reunion. The guard we fought earlier says that she heard them bickering. We go in and sure enough find Ace and Bancho Leomon. Ace explains he shut himself in to stop tamers from being able to continue the champion challenge. Apparently nobody returns unscathed from battling the selectors and he is sick of losing people. If nobody is able to continue the challenge, nobody will fight anymore and nobody will get hurt. Bancho Leomon says that's just his cowardice talking and that he'll fight us right now. If that doesn't snap Ace out of it, Bancho will have to put him to sleep permanently. Yikes! Ace says he has no Digimon or Digivice anymore, but Bancho's like, you dumbass, I'm your Digimon and I have your Digivice right here. So we fight. The fight is thankfully not too different from the solo fight against Banjo Leomon, and it's over in less than 10 minutes. After losing, Ace asks what the heck Banjo is doing, saying that it's pointless. Banjo agrees and says that's the point though, they don't have to fight, they want to fight. Digimon enjoy doing that, and Ace did too. Banjo tells him to stop hiding behind other people's weaknesses, and that this is in fact about his own weakness and cowardice. If he doesn't want to fail or lose people, then he needs to be strong. Banjo tells Ace to decide whether or not he's going to fight, because if not, he's gonna be Shu's partner. Ace finally relents and says that it's always been him and Banjo together and he's not gonna break that. So he resolves to fight and leaves. Shu also leaves. They both thank us, and with another life changed for the better, we leave to the last destination in our travels, North City. As not a single city in this damn continent is normal, North City is no exception. It's full of aggressive people. We get told, for example, to get lost, we're told that we are incompetent, and more. It hurts my feelings really, but what can I do, right? There's no special gimmick to access the leaders building here, we get to just go in. The only special thing is that the second tamer keeps asking us what her partner's name is, that's Waru Seedramon. Apparently they both lost their memories and she doesn't remember much aside from some pretty disturbing facts about Waru Seedramon. Oh well, we tell her the name and leave them to think. The leader here is none other than Takuto. Yui is surprisingly stunned behind him. He says he will be the one to protect her and that's why he went to North City. Only the strongest tamers can get there, and so it is the safest place for Yui. He says he sent his Digimon to test us, but given that we refused to follow them and Asuka ran off, that we are enemies. He even laughed when we said that we were there to rescue them, saying, "Oh yeah, where were you to protect us when we landed?" and Yui was shivering in fear. At this point it's clear dialogue is not an option, so we decide to fight. However, we faced Takuto in the past. It's never ended with a victory for him in the past, and it certainly didn't end with a victory for him now. In a surprising turn of events though, Takuto's whole demeanor changes when he loses. He says he's useless and begs us to help Yui, saying that she was stuck in that dizzy state since they got to the digital world. Then, the guard tamer with the Waru Seedramon arrives, having fully recovered their memories, and they say that Yui is stuck in a digicoma, which happens when a heart that's too pure comes to the digital world. This condition can be healed, but it requires ginseng. As such, we need to go to an island nearby to find Ancient Wisemon to get it, which we quickly do. There, Ancient Wisemon fights us. He has an Armageddon in his team, which is pretty damn awesome. Turns out, Ancient Wisemon thought that we were with the selectors and wanted the ginseng to make a poison that put people in a digicoma, but after we explain our purpose, he gives us his last piece of ginseng, which we use to heal Yui. As soon as she wakes up, she starts repeating Takuto's name before apologizing and thanking him. Turns out he wasn't brainwashed or anything, he was just hyper-focused on protecting Yui, couldn't trust anything in this world, and eventually, due to fear and an obligation/desire to protect Yui, he grew to distrust every single person he came across. But saving Yui broke him out of the trance per se. They go back to the base with us and the whole crew is happily reunited. We then get a call from Colonel telling us to go to the central board where the championship is being held. The rest of the friends will watch from the base as they aren't allowed to go to the championship location. Also, if you're worried about Asuka's brainwashing, it sorta just brushed off as her being synchronized with Digimon or whatever. It really is brushed off. That was kinda lame. I'll spare you the details of the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum rank tournaments as they were pretty easy and went by in like an hour tops. There were some cool Digimon that we were able to fight though. Beelzemon, Blast Mode, Shine Greymon, Ruin Mode, Susanomon, Imperial Dramon Fighter Mode, some of the ancient Digimon that I think come from the 4th Digimon anime. These last ones I mentioned are, to my knowledge, pretty rare to find in a game, so seeing them was awesome. I will, however, touch upon the final fight of the Platinum Tournament. It's against the 3 bandits who explained they were amongst the first wave of tamers to vanish from the world and awake as monsters. They then fused together into EX Eraser Omega, telling us once again to leave and go back home. We, of course, refuse and fight. After winning, we finally get promoted to Platinum rank. The numbers explain that they have business to settle with the leader of the selectors, but nobody knows who he is, and that they needed someone strong enough to fight the selectors and draw out the leader. That's us, the Platinum rank Tamer. Then they take their leave. Colonel shows up and announces that he will launch a counterattack against the selectors now that the Tamers have a champion. That's us. But then, right on cue, an Eraser shows up. Multiple do, in fact, storming the arena. They kidnap Colonel and realize we are a Platinum rank Tamer, so 3 change into monster form and attack us. Just as an aside here, this was the moment I finally realized that P rank meant Platinum rank all along. I just figured it was one of those things that the game wouldn't bother explaining to me like Digimon Dusk did a few times. Anyway, we beat the Erasers and they retreat, but not before saying most of the Tamers and their Digimon had been captured and taken to the Eraser's Digiship. The announcer then shows up and confirms what the others are saying, begging us to save everyone. We agree and ask for our friends' help finding out where the Tamers were taken. According to Terriermon, they were at Archive Island, an island only ever rumored to exist. It's apparently where all Digimon come from and where they all go after passing. It also has the original evolution tree, which the current one is based off of. And so, without delay, we head there to fight our final battle. The way there is through Risk Factory, which is a nice throwback. On our way through the map, we fight a few Erasers and get told by Terriermon that someone is broadcasting our progress to the entire digital world. Weird, but oh well. That aside, nothing important happens, that is, until we reach the final room in the factory. As we walk in there, we see a machine hooked up to the original evolution tree. 2 of our rivals from the tournament are there, and they walk into the machine, emerging on the other side as Erasers. That's the truth behind Erasers. They were all Tamers and Digimon, just transformed into monsters. At this moment, Colonel shows up. Turns out he was evil after all, the leader of the selectors. Who would have guessed, right? I'm shocked, simply shocked. Colonel says that all he did was to protect the digital world and that we would understand soon enough when we became one with the selector network. But then Uno shows up alongside the other bandits, saying that this is not gonna happen as they're going to trash every last one of the selectors. Colonel explains that the numbers don't understand that thing, that humans and Digimons are the threat to the digital world, not the selectors. Basically, the biggest issue the digital world faces is the needlessly increasing amount of garbage data, and that if it continues rising, the world will collapse completely. That's why he's selecting stuff. Useless data must be deleted, and the useful must be streamlined into erasers, which are both Digimon and Tamer all in one. Very efficient. The trio argues with Colonel some more before Colonel finally has enough and just deletes them. Colonel claims the only problem left is us, too powerful and supported by too many people. That's why Colonel started broadcasting everything for the world to see, so that he can crush us in front of everyone and crush their hopes in the process, ensuring no one will oppose him again. Colonel then transforms into Giga the Vast, and we fight. I won't lie, this is well, a very easy fight. Just take a look at how much damage my Magnadramon deals in a single turn. Yeah, it's colossal. This thing carried me in endgame fights. And just take a look at how little damage I take from it. So yeah, naturally this was a cakewalk of a fight. Colonel is not satisfied though and transforms again into Terra the Vast. However, before it can attack us, it starts grunting in pain. Turns out that 3 numbers are wreaking havoc on Terra the Vast from inside its body, weakening it for us. And with their efforts holding back the boss, we attack once again. The fight this time is tougher for sure, and I actually do take big damage from one of his attacks, but even with that, take a look at how much damage my Magnadramon deals. And now, take a look at how much damage he deals with some of his other attacks. Yeah, it wouldn't be unfair to call this fight a cakewalk too, I feel. Upon beating Colonel, it starts imploding. We're told by the numbers that we have 30 seconds to escape, and they'll stay behind to contain the damage so it doesn't spread outside. We refuse to abandon them, but they say they'll be right behind us. So we leave, and as soon as we do, the numbers start speaking amongst themselves, heavily implying that they were lying and that they will sacrifice themselves. Shame, I kinda like them. The screen teleports back to the Digibase, where we are all leaving with our friends back to the real world. The explosion from the original tree put all Digimon in the base into a stunned state, so we were unfortunately unable to say goodbye to our buddies. Hiroyuki did leave them a surprise though, a fireworks show. This leads to a pretty funny exchange with Renamon saying that in the real world they make explosions called fireworks during celebrations. To that, Terriermon freaks out saying, explosions during celebrations? Isn't that like harassment? Why on earth would anyone do that? Gatomon explains it properly though, and the misunderstanding is quickly cleared up. The credits then play with a fireworks show. It's pretty. After the credits, it's shown that we get back to the real world safely. Patamon bids us goodbye and thanks us for all we've done. We say our farewells, but Patamon later sends us an email saying that he has no idea why people are saying farewell, as if we send him an email, he can come pick us up to visit the digital world. And that's it. Game's over. Well, sorta. We can load the game and it throws us back into the digital world. Our friends are all celebrating us at Digibase, congratulating us on defeating the selectors, we get a new legendary weapon, more quests appear in the PC. There's a lot to do, but I'm just curious about one thing. What happened to the bandits? I ran back there and they survived. They're at the final boss room trying to repair the ancient tree. They apparently also restore the backup of Colonel as he's connected to the tree and can't really be erased. This one, however, is under their supervision, so he shouldn't cause issues. But to make sure he won't cause issues, the bandits hack into the tree and open up the Legend Tamer rank battles, in which Colonel will participate. While I don't have footage of this, because I would have to double my Tamer points to participate in the tournament, and kindly fuck that, I did look up a video about this final Legend Tamer fight. It's against Chief Julia, Chief Glare, and finally Colonel. Pretty cool to see the two characters return, not gonna lie. And there we go, that's the recap done. From now on, this will be mostly spoiler-free. I say mostly because while the story won't be spoiled, I will still need to show and talk about both early and late-ish game mechanics, show the complete map, show a couple of earlier game boss fights, etc. Nothing major, but if you want to play the game fully unspoiled and discover everything yourself, then pause the video until you do get around to playing the game, then come back and watch it. Or don't let me tell you what to do. But anyway, that was a long recap, wasn't it? Unless you skipped the recap. If you did, that wasn't a long recap. In fact, there was no recap at all for you. But even if you skipped it, take a look at how much of the video you skipped. The point is, there was quite a bit to talk about because the story here is definitely meatier than the previous games. And more enjoyable too, in my humble opinion. It's definitely not perfect because there are a lot of, shall we say, loose ends that I didn't quite understand. But still, you know, it was a step up from previous games. In total, it took me around 50 hours to beat the game, with minimal grinding, believe it or not. Unless you consider cleaning and repairing plates grinding, I'll get there shortly. While I did find enjoyment in World DS and World Dawn/Dusk storylines, Lost Evolution was the first DS story game that actually made me really intrigued. The premise is simple. Tamers have vanished from the digital world, leaving a bunch of Digimon disgruntled, as some felt abandoned by their tamers, or worried. As if that wasn't bad enough, there is an evil group called the Selectors who want to recreate and perfect the digital world. They do so by choosing worthy Digimon and Tamers to keep in the world or use as part of their plan, and erase the rest that have no utility. So yeah, Tamers are gone, Digimon are being erased or captured, the Selectors are taking down opposition, things are really bad. And it's in this scenario that you're dropped. Truth is, I really enjoy it when a game poses strong questions from the get-go, as it keeps me actually engaged with the story. That's exactly what, in my opinion, Lost Evolution nailed. Right off the bat, you are left wondering what happened to all the Tamers that existed in the digital world, many of whom you, the player, met in previous games. You get curious about what the Selectors are doing, and if you're anything like me, you even get invested in saving your character's friends, as yes, you get separated from them in the beginning of the game. And throughout the story, a lot of reveals answered questions that I had while adding more to the pile, which to me is a very enjoyable way to tell and experience a story. story. Don't get me wrong, the story is still quite simple, and at the end of the day, it still leaves questions that simply made no sense to me, but I did get enjoyment out of it. Aside from being intriguing, the story is also actually funny at times, which is very appreciated. Right at the start of the game, for example, you're passed out near two of your friends and you get a dialogue from one of them saying that you have no heartbeat, only for the second friend to call the first one an idiot and say that the place he was checking is not where the heart is located. It's such a silly kind of humor, but it managed to get a giggle out of me, and this is just one example of quite a few. I don't recall the previous games having a comedy element to them, at least not one that worked for me, so this was a welcome change. All this being said though, I genuinely think this was the best of the DS era stories, and it's a damn shame that we never got an official translation. So with the story actually being decent, how do you progress it? If your answer is by playing the game, congratulations, you are correct. You are also a smartass, and I'm banning you from the channel because there can only be one smartass here. Me. No, the answer I'm looking for is a bit more specific. Plus, the question was rhetoric as I'm the one who's actually going to answer it. Basically, the core gameplay loop is as one would expect from a JRPG. You have a home base, you get your quests, usually from there, you teleport to where you need to be, and you go do the quest before reporting back, or getting another quest in the field. If you've played Dusk and Dawn, you might remember that the games gated your story quests behind side quests, meaning that you had to complete a bunch of side quests between each story quest. I am very pleased to say that this is no longer the case. There are some moments, 3 if I recall correctly, over the course of the story in which the game tells you that you'll need to do more quests before you continue, but there are huge chunks of story and many story missions between each of these 3 occasions, which is all I could ask for, really. The way you actually do all that is simple. Most of the game you'll have a way to see the world map and teleport to what's called digiports. They're basically landing pads for your ship, as yes, in this game you'll move through and even enter/exit the digital world using spaceships. It's a novel idea to be sure. The thing with these landing pads is they are usually locked, so you can't just access the entire map as soon as you get your ship. You have to physically make your way through maps to unlock them, which means that yes, the maps are interconnected. And in the map screen you can see which areas the digiport connect to, so you have some guidance in the map screen. This whole interconnected thing may seem like a trivial thing to say, but those of you who played the past DS games know how huge this is. And to those of you that didn't, here's an explanation. Basically, past games had you pick a destination to teleport you in a world map and that was it. Save for a few exceptions, you just had to work your way to the end of the map before finding a teleport point that would take you back to the base. Each map was its own self-contained zone. This time, however, you can reach most places just by walking, which is a pretty neat innovation, though not without its drawbacks. Some places, in my opinion, sorely needed digiports and didn't get any, like the 4 cities that you have to visit later in the game, which results in you having to sometimes TP to Narnia and walk to your destination. But oh well, this is just a nitpick, we should all be used to this at this point. Another innovation is that this game has HMs, force of habit, yield skills. You have cut, you have dive, you have dig. All of these and more allow you to either progress in the map or access bonus stuff like these trapped chests with super tough fights that give you good loot if you get through them. If you're familiar with Pokemon, you might be rolling your eyes because nobody wants to keep an HM slave on their team, but let me ease your worries there. In this game, the HMs aren't moves, but rather they are innate characteristics of Digimon. Some species have cut, some species have dive, some species have nothing, list goes on. Thankfully, there are very few occasions in the story in which you must use a field move to progress, and you're told in advance that you'll need that move, so really it wasn't a bother to me. So now you know how to traverse maps and that you have to find digiports, but how do you access them? Because life is never simple, you of course can't just walk up to a digiport and activate it. Oh no. For most of them, you have to first find a key in the map that you're playing, and only then can you open the door to continue to the port. I know those of you that play the past games might have gotten a visceral reaction from what I just said, as in those titles the key was usually far away from the gate in what was already a labyrinth-like zone with constant random encounters, but I promise things are a bit better here. So take a moment, breathe, and hear me out. Sure, some keys are somewhat far away from their respective gates, but I'm very pleased to say that I found quite a few of them in super obvious spots. Like, chests sitting in the only possible road to take in the map, kind of obvious. If I'm not an idiot and forgot to record an example of this, it should be showing on screen right now. Again, not all of the keys you'll need are placed in an obvious path, but a lot of them were, and I appreciate that, especially given that the maps are still akin to labyrinths made of corridors, much to my dismay. This is a problem that Digimon World DS and Dawn/Dusk had that really annoyed me. The map design in those games were pretty much the same you see here. You'd walk through mostly corridors with screen transitions through more corridors. By itself, this is alright, if a bit uninspired, but the problem comes from the fact that this is coupled with a very confusing layout and constant random encounters. In those past games, you could actually walk through multiple screens before finding a dead end and having to backtrack, all while fighting a random battle every 5 seconds. If you think I'm exaggerating, go watch my Digimon World Dusk video and you'll see a thorough analysis of a specific map that shows exactly what I mean. And no, I'm totally not taking this opportunity to plug my own video. Where'd you get that idea from? As I said, this is a problem that unfortunately remains in Lost Evolution. In fact, a lot of the locations you'll visit are the same as the ones you visit in Dawn/Dusk, and I'm positive some of them had absolutely no changes to the map layout. However, thankfully, while the structure is still a labyrinth, I didn't find almost any multiple screen dead ends, so this problem didn't bother me nearly as much here as it did in other titles. Another trick that I used, which I'm pretty sure the game intends for you to use, is the stylus on the bottom screen. You can drag the screen around to see the map around you, and this saved me from running into a lot of short dead ends, and I highly recommend you use this feature as well. And in fact, this feature is present in all of the DS games, I'm pretty sure, so just apply this advice to the other titles as well. So while the labyrinth problem remains, it is a bit better to endure. However, I did mention that the labyrinth nature of the previous games was also coupled with insane encounter rates, and well, unfortunately, those encounter rates remain in Lost Evolution. Take a look at this example on screen. Like 3 seconds after ending one fight, another started. This happens less for me in this game, but it still happens, and it's hell every time it does happen. And speaking of random encounters, I can't just not talk about the wonderful battle system. It's actually one of my favorite parts of all the Digimon DS games, really. Super unique while still being pretty simple. Basically, the combat works in zones. You have 5 zones and each of your 3 active Digimon occupy one zone. If you put them side by side, they give each other stat buffs. The enemies are also distributed in 5 zones and their formation can vary a lot. The magic of this system comes with the variety that you can have with attacks. Thanks to how the combat works, the attacks all affect different zones. You can have attacks that only affect one zone of your choice, or choose side-by-side zones of your choice, or choose zones of your choice but with a gap between them. You have attacks that affect all 5 zones, etc. Similarly, the enemies can also have all of these attacks. That's why you can move your Digimon to other zones in the field, even at the cost of free stat buffs. If you, for example, were facing a boss that has a powerful attack that hits 3 side-by-side zones, leaving your Digimon side-by-side might get all 3 of them hit at once, while spacing them out will always save at least one of your Digimon from being hit. And if you're lucky, you might even save 2 Digimon from being hit, as the AI is a bit dumb and sometimes it decides to use the 3 side-by-side zones attacks on zones 2, 3, and 4 when you have your Digimon in zones 1, 3, and 5. So yeah, sometimes the AI is just not very efficient. And honestly, that's just the basics of this combat. There's a lot that's derived from it. Some bosses, for example, are so big that they occupy multiple zones, meaning that if you use an attack that affects multiple zones, you will hit the boss multiple times with one attack. Let me tell you, there is nothing as satisfying as watching a boss have a huge chunk of its HP taken away by a single move of yours because it hit the boss on all 3 zones. The game also has the other staples you might be used to if you know turn-based JRPGs. Turn orders that can change as Digimon have their speed altered, stat debuffs, status conditions, etc. The enemy team can even blow back your Digimon and randomly swap it for one of your backup Digimon. Because yes, you can have 3 Digimon as backup that you can swap with your active ones at any moment during and outside of battle. While all of this sounds good, and in my opinion it is, veteran players that have experienced World DS and Dawn/Dusk may feel a bit conflicted about the changes to the battle system. Basically, in their attempt to streamline mechanics, they've changed a few things that may be a bummer to some people. Digimon now only have 4 moves, while previously they could have 4 plus signature moves. All games allow you to equip stuff to your Digimon to boost their stats, but while Dawn and Dusk allowed you to equip 3 items that could all be the same category, weapons for example, Lost Evolution only allows you to equip 2 items, 1 weapon and 1 armor or accessory. I'm also pretty sure multi-hit moves are gone, replaced with a system called Action Chain that gives your Digimon a second turn immediately following the current one. I'm still not sure how exactly that system works, if it's based on speed or what. If anyone does know, please post it down in the comments as I'm super curious. And please also let me know how the auto feature works, because that's new too, and at least for me, pressing it didn't make the battle play itself, just made the Digimon choose attacks on their own. But I still had to press the button, which kinda beats the purpose for me. Oh, and by the way, one super positive change from previous games. Do you remember how, upon finding a random battle, you'd have to sit through scan animations for each Digimon? Well, that's gone, which unironically saves hours in the playthrough. That's what I meant when I said that they got rid of quite a bit of the time wasted from previous games, thankfully. You'll no longer need to scan each individual Digimon you come across before starting fight. Some of the maps are a bit better to traverse. The encounter rate feels a bit more fair, even if still overtuned in my opinion. They got rid of Species EXP and made evolving Digimon less grindy, as you no longer need to put an entire species at risk of extinction just for one evolution. The list goes on. A lot of the frustrations with the past games have been not resolved but made a bit better, resulting in a game that respects your time better than the others. Or so I would like to say, but in an absolutely baffling move, the developers took all that time saved with these measures and decided to waste it again with a new mechanic: late repairing. So you know how the game is called Digimon Story Lost Evolution, right? There's a reason for that name. Basically, due to story reasons, a lot of Digimon lose their ability to digivolve, and it's up to you to restore that ability. I honestly really like the idea of the system, as every time I would restore an evolution, I would get a small hit of dopamine seeing which one I was restoring and if it was a Digimon I liked or not. Sure, you can grind for the evolutions you're missing via methods I'll get into shortly, but for me, having my playthrough shaped by the Digivolutions that I had available to me was awesome. In fact, I beat the game with Digimon that I had never used before simply because they were the ones I could get to Mega. And one of my Digimon finished the game at Rookie stage. Yeah, in this game that's not really that bad of a thing, as I'll explain soon. Every time I play a Digimon game, I work my way to the Digimon I like, and having that choice taken from me resulted in quite a refreshing experience. On the flip side though, if you do make it a point to always play with your favorites and you don't like to deviate from that, then this might be a terrible system for you, causing you to have to grind a lot until you get the evolution you want. Here's an example. Gallantmon or Dukemon is one of my favorite Digimons. Yes, I'm very original and totally not basic. I tried to work towards it in the game, only to have to pivot my Gilmon to another evolution family entirely, simply because I did not have the Wargromon evolution unlocked. And yeah, even after beating the game, I still don't have it. That made me use Digimon that I had never used, instead of using my beloved Royal Knight. But if you're really attached to it, then you might be very annoyed at having to grind for that Wargromon, if you're unlucky like me anyway. But how do we grind, you might ask? Well, that is intrinsically related to how you restore the Digivolutions to begin with. Basically, as you run through the game, you'll acquire what's called bug plates, usually from defeating random encounters. Inside these plates are the so-called Lost Evolutions. The random encounters tend to drop plates associated with them. So, for example, if I wanted that Wargromon plate that I mentioned, I would have to battle Gromon and Wargromon over and over until one dropped the right plates. Problem is, you can't know which plate you dropped until you actually process it and restore that evolution, so you might end up having to make a few extra trips back to base before you finally get your gold plate. At least the game shows you which plate you're getting after you first restored Digivolution, so you'll know if you're getting a repeat and only have to go back to base if you get a new plate. Thankfully, plates are relatively common drops, so hopefully the grind won't be too long. So, now that you have your plates, what do? Well, you go back to the base and repair them, that's what. Since nothing in life comes easy, the plates you get come in all states of disrepair. Some are cracked and need to be fixed, some are dirty and need to be cleaned, and some have huge crystal bugs that you need to break. And yes, lots of the plates have at least 2 or all 3 of these issues. The way you repair the plates is via a minigame. Essentially, you get 60 seconds to use your stylus to correct the issues. If there are crystals, you have to break them with a drill. If there are holes, you have to cover them with putty and then file the putty away. If it's dirty, you have to clean it with a brush. Since you only have 60 seconds, you're incentivized to do everything as fast as possible, especially considering there's a Terriermon constantly screaming at you if you make even a single mistake. Because yes, you can make mistakes. If you file the wrong spot or drill into the plates instead of the crystals, you can open more holes in the plates and very quickly break and lose the plates entirely. At the same time though, with the more complicated plates, which usually offer up to 120 seconds instead of 60, if you don't rush, you risk not repairing the plate enough for it to be considered usable. But so long as you're not a perfectionist, it shouldn't be too hard to finish plates or at least repair them enough for them to be usable, save for a couple of the super advanced ones. And if you're wondering what I mean by repairing them enough to be usable, basically once the time to work on the plates is up, you get a grade ranging from 1 to 100. If you get 100, that means you managed to repair everything. This grade, alongside any remaining time on your clock, is transformed into tamer points, which are needed to progress the end of the story. The grade, however, doesn't seem to actually change anything about the Digivolution as far as I can tell. One of my Digimon ended up with a grade of 12, yeah I know I'm a pro at this game, and I still managed to evolve to it and have it perform just fine. And the truth is, throughout the game's story, you're gonna do a lot of these plates. I processed every single plate that I found and finished the game with 195 plates processed. Just so you have an idea, I fast forwarded the process as much as I could and the plate related activities still accounted for over 6 hours of my 50-hour playthrough. Just to test it out, I decided to do 21 plates without fast forwarding at all, and that took 28 minutes of my life. Just letting the game play itself and occasionally manually fixing plates. And yes, I said play itself. Once you complete the plate for the first time, you can get your friend Lopmon to automatically do repeats of the same plate, which helps the process feel a little bit less grueling. But as you can probably tell, it still takes forever. Now, I know what you might be saying, can't you just not do the repeat plates and save a lot of time? And yeah, I guess you could. But the thing is, you can use the spare plates to trade with a certain NPC and get really good equipment, such as a ring that gives you 50% extra EXP and money on top of giving stats boosts. Plus, as I said, you get tamer points, which you will need. Thankfully, while the points might sound grindy, they weren't for me. Doing all the quests I could and my plates put me well beyond the tamer points requirement to complete the story without me ever having to grind for them. However, if you want to complete the postgame, good luck, because you're gonna need to grind points. But more on that later, back to the plates. When you do get and process new plates, all that's left is for you to add them to the correct Digivolution tree. Most plates tell you which tree they belong to, but Mega Digimon don't, so having some Digimon knowledge will definitely save you some late game time checking each individual tree to find the hole in which your plate fits. Once that's done, you're free to evolve your Digimon into the new Digivolution you unlocked. At least the Digivolution requirements in this game were made easier, as you no longer need the species EXP like I mentioned earlier. So yeah, that's the repairing plates mechanic. It started out interesting to me, but the novelty quickly wore off and some of the late game plates felt flat out impossible to finish, even with all the upgraded tools. Because yes, you can buy upgraded versions of them to make them more efficient. In my opinion, the devs really did save quite a bit of time in other previously tedious activities, only to then dump all that saved time into this quite lengthy plate processing mechanic. I feel like there had to have been a better way to implement the idea, but oh well. That being said though, I did see some praise for the system, so I'd be curious to hear from those of you that have played the game. What did you think of the plate mechanic? Did you like it? Did you wish it was not as time consuming? Let me know in the comments below. And just so you know, the reason why it's so time consuming is because you can't skip the dialogue. If you could at least skip the whole process when Lopmon did the plates for you, that would be a lot better, as you would only have to deal with, the entire process if you were doing them manually. But alas, no. Whether you do it manually or automatically, you still have to sit through screens and screens of Terriermon talking. It's not great. And since I'm here talking about plates, might as well get into one of the core mechanics of the game, Digivolution. In Digimon games, you can digivolve and degenerate Digimon to your heart's content. This usually results in cumulative stats gains and generally is how you train Digimon, and this game is no exception. In order to digivolve or degenerate, you need to reach certain prerequisites, such as reaching a certain level or a certain stat value. Generally though, these requisites aren't too hard to meet, and I didn't have trouble with any over my time with the game, so hopefully that's gonna be the same for you. The only thing that really stopped me from digivolving was, well, not having the plate for the Digivolution I wanted. This system is how I managed to get a rookie Digimon all the way to the end of the game, as I kept evolving it to ultimate forms and degenerating it back, resulting in a rookie that had stats comparable to the megas in my team. And Lost Evolution introduced a way to catapult your training, Digiload. Basically, your Digimon can consume other Digimon and gain stats from that. Pretty grim, huh? So naturally, players quickly figured out that a very efficient method to train was to fill up their digifarms with Digimon that would be eaten by their main party members as soon as a farm Digimon had enough happiness. So yeah, you just raise a Digimon, make them feel happy, loved, and then you just give them away for consumption. And speaking of Digifarm, another way to level your Digimon, this time passively, is simply to put them in the farm. You can buy different farms that benefit different types of Digimon, and even put what are called farm goods in there. Those are basically equipment that the Digimon can use to have a chance of promoting stat growth in them. You can also manually train them with the goods in order to force the stats growth, but you can only do it so many times before the Digimons get tired and you have to wait. And if you're coming from the previous Digimon Story games, rejoice! They introduced even more quality of life changes to the farm than the ones that I already talked about. For example, now you can put Digimon to work on making your equipment for the rest of their lives, and you can even send them on dangerous expedition by themselves. Honestly, between Digiload and forced labor, I'm not sure anymore if we really are the good guys here, but Digimon seem not to mind, so oh well. I think with this, I've covered most of the main systems of the game, if not all, but there are a few extra things that I really want to talk about and couldn't fit anywhere else. First is the postgame. Lost Evolution felt like it had a meatier postgame than the previous games. There are your usual farm quests unlocked after you beat the final boss, but there's also a lot more. You beat the game with 2 more maps yet to be explored, so you can go do that. Chances are you won't have finished restoring all Digivolution trees, so you can do that. The game also has trapped chests hidden behind HMs that start a fight once you open them. As you can see from the footage right now, these fights can be extremely difficult. Mind you, the final boss of the game was a cakewalk with my team, the same team that you're watching getting demolished here. So yeah, a lot of the post-game stuff have one hell of a difficulty spike, but at least they made it so you are only required to grind in the post-game. Clearing these trapped chests gives you exclusive and usually pretty powerful equipment. Another activity you can go for is trying to find all the ancient Digimon. Remember that one anime season where the people turned into the Digimon with Agonimon, Lobomon, etc.? The ancient Digimon, which I'm pretty sure originated there, are in this game, and once you beat the game, you're gonna start being able to find these Digimon in the wild. And if you're lucky, you can get their plates as well. And if you're still not satisfied with the post-game content, there's one last content that's probably not a surprise: the Legend Tamer Tournament. You'll require 130 or so thousand Tamer points to enter the tournament, which is twice as many as you need to beat the game. And yes, the tournament is about as hard as you can imagine, perhaps even harder. So, to those of you who love the game and want to do a lot of it, well, there are lots of challenges awaiting you in the post-game. And if you really want more, you can check out the retro achievements for this game. There's a neat set waiting for you there if you're willing to try to master the game. And since I mentioned Ancient Digimon, this feels like a good time to say that I really liked the roster of Digimon in this game. Some staples weren't there, but the lines that were in the game were pretty unique, I feel. Way less recolors than I'm used to seeing in these games, which is always appreciated, and some Digimon we hardly ever see, like the ancient Digimons I mentioned. Another point to bring up is that the gameplay loop is as addicting as ever. Despite the issues I raised, and despite feeling like the game still has this series issues of wasting your time, I couldn't help but enjoy my time with the game. Digivolving and degenerating is a very neat cycle, the battles are fun, soundtrack is pretty good, and the sprite work is fantastic. I mean, just look at Agumon shaking its booty here. Adorable. Even the attention to detail is pretty nice. For example, every time we use an item to teleport back to base, Lopmon runs over to welcome us back. The devs didn't have to do this, but they did, and I love that. Alright, that's a lot. So, with all this being said, do I think this is the best of the Digimon Story DS games? I still have yet to play Cross Wars, but so far, yeah, I think this is the best one. The story was more engaging, the game felt overall a bit less grindy than the previous entries, it respected my time a tiny bit more than the others, there are a lot of quality of life improvements, lots to praise here. But even with all that, it's still far from being ideal, especially given that the new main mechanic also loves to waste your time. As such, I will say the same thing I said about the other games. Please, save your sanity and play the game with fast forward if you're on an emulator. It really does fix a lot of these issues and make the game a much more enjoyable experience. And remember to use your stylus to check where you're going on the bottom screen. It will definitely save you the frustration of running into quite a few dead ends. There's also a couple of cheats you can activate that give you infinite time when doing the plates, or just flat out gives you all the plates done. I didn't use them, but I wouldn't fault you for wanting to do them because the plate minigame does get tiring pretty fast. At least it did for me. Just be aware that if you use cheats, you won't be able to use retro achievements if you're into that, so... With all this said though, let me hear from all of you. Did you play Lost Evolution? How did you like it? Do you agree with my takes here? Leave your comments down below. Hearing what you all have to say is easily the best part of this whole YouTube thing for me. And if you want more Digimon content, well, I have a retrospective just like this about Digimon Dusk, and a slightly different retrospective on Digimon World DS. I'll leave links to both down in the description below. I guess with this being my third Digimon video, I'm slowly building a Digimon catalog in this channel, and I would love to continue doing so. So if you have requests for games that you want to see covered or subjects that you would like me to talk about, feel free to write them in the comments as well. Now, all that's left is for me to ask you to please like the video and subscribe to the channel if this video was in any way enjoyable, informative, or if you overall took something from it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you hopefully in the next video. Bye bye!